sizzling fajita hot take alert, I think Blacked in America, Stunning and Brave New World is gonna flop.
What? No!
Yeah, you know it, I know it, the American people know it. That's boring. What is interesting is why. And it tells us not only that this movie's gonna fail critically and almost certainly commercially, but also informs the overall issues with the MCU right now and kind of Hollywood in general. In short, Sam Wilson is barely a full character with zero theme or motivation, and audiences aren't gonna show up for him. We'll see how his appearances before Phase 4 set him up for nothing, how his show continued giving him nothing, and use the original 6 Avengers to really contrast his nothingness. Then we'll wrap it up by looking at the trailers, rumors of production hell, and Aldous Huxley to predict where this movie could be going, and how many megatons it's gonna be. The Falcon made his debut in one of the best MCU films, Captain America: Winter Soldier, and he had so much potential. Guys, this is gonna be a recurring theme with this character, but this guy is just freaking cool, okay? Sweet jetpack, imposing bulletproof wings, later a drone that does whatever the scene needs, high-tech goggles, a pair of submachine guns?
Stop! My penis can only get so erect.
Apparently in the comics, Red Wing was an actual bird. The idea to make it a drone, I think, was fantastic. He does cool things with it, like drone bomb. These guys, which will be important information for later, sadly, they still tried to give it emotion and form a bond between it and Sam, but it was underbaked, like everything else about this character. Sam was always an afterthought, which is why he isn't main character material now. So we meet him as he's forming a bond with Steve Rogers, and before all the cool Falcon gear, we find out Sam is a pararescueman who counsels soldiers with PTSD, so he can dish out the punishment and do aftercare. Wait, did I get the right acronym on that one? It might shock you to be reminded that Falcon was in 6 movies through Endgame, but never got proper development. He was always a support character, and listen, there is nothing wrong with that. He is used to round out existing ideas or as a lens for other characters' attitudes. He himself doesn't have much arc. The usage of Falcon was appropriate for the stories that they were trying to tell about other characters. Winter Soldier sees him providing succor to Steve and Natasha, which everybody in the audience wanted to do as well. Scarlett Johansson is a Gyat. Gyat? You know what? This is stupid. I'll teach you guys something. Whoop-pow! I'm gonna have to open it up to reference it. Shouta is fat.
PHAT. Pretty hot and tempting.
Sam is there to support Steve, to help explore Steve's journey, which is about doing the right thing all the time. And Sam reinforces this idea by trying to help him acclimate to life in the future, helping him fight against Hydra, trying to rescue Bucky, even when everybody else thinks it's a lost cause. He provides intel and help. He backs up the team in the fight on the helicarrier, and he looks cool as hell doing it. He was also comic relief. He helped add a cool yet humorous action scene to Ant-Man. Sam reinforces the themes of Team Cap by standing with Steve and by seeing to the downed War Machine, even though they were on opposing sides. Sam is not bad, but he also isn't deep or dynamic, and if they were never going to do anything with him, that would be fine. He has some outstanding action scenes, funny lines, he offers reinforcement to the story and other characters.
All good things, all good things.
Until they weren't.
Yeah, see, the trouble started right here. This scene makes zero sense with the setup that we've been given, and it is a perfect example of what is going on with the MCU in the last few years. They genuinely thought that just handing the shield over would make Sam Captain America, and it shows what an afterthought he really was. Now, right about now, somebody's just dying to comment that it happened in the comics. Lots of things happen in the comics, and the MCU has made it quite clear that they not only aren't tied to the comics, they don't even want to hire comic fans. So that's a weak defense. That comic also came out in 2015, and if you'll all join me in putting on your special hats, that isn't too far away from when Avengers Endgame started writing and filming. So it seems like maybe the cinematic department asked the comic department for a little justification.
Coincidence? I think not!
All of this is a pointless question and ignores the meta issue. Why did Sam need to be Captain America in the first place? Was he not good enough on his own? Why did we manufacture this stupid tension instead of giving this character his own journey? In any case, the setup was poor, and no one has a reason to care about Sam. Oh, we have multiple reasons to think that he is badass.
Code for badass.
But not care about him like we cared about Steve. And it's painfully obvious that no one at Disney Marvel understood this core concept. Sam, who has been established as a supporting character, mainly to support Steve Rogers, now has to be a main character with an arc, suddenly, and do it without Steve. And how did that turn out?
It stinks.
Yeah, well, the parts about Sam, anyway. He's fighting with the villains for title of weakest part of this show. I am so angry about Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and not because it's bad, but because it was almost great. If you haven't seen this show, I do recommend it for the good parts, though the bad bits are complete time thievery. It would make an excellent case study about a writer who artfully manages to dodge every interesting concept and plot point, like he's Boris the bullet dodger, and the good ideas are the bullets in this situation.
Why do they call him the bullet dodger? Because he dodges bullets, heavy.
As with Sam, this show has so much potential and contains some great parts. There's some fun action, the entire arc with Bucky's struggle to find forgiveness and understanding who he is if he's not the Winter Soldier. That was great. Honestly, I would have liked to have seen even more of that. The theme of overcoming your past, that's always solid. Anytime Bucky and Sam were being an old married couple, bickering and bantering, excellent. Those guys were hilarious together for the first couple episodes. Even the Zemo plot was cool. It'd also be cool if you awkwardly dance all over that like button. I didn't walk off, but this is a habitual now. Hey, fun fact about Greg. I eat ramen noodles pretty much every day, sometimes twice a day. So I got this bad boy.
There's nothing else like them. They're easy to make whenever you've got a craving, and they're delicious to boot. I'll never forget my first time.
The reason this show is important is because many of the folks behind it are also writing for Captain America Brave New World, namely Malcolm Spellman and Dallin Mewson. They had a chance to focus on Sam and flesh him out, establishing his reasoning and worldview, and chose not to. They also displayed their stunning ineptitude in handling plot points, morals, villains, all of it. Sadly, like Sam, it's neat looking, but just as flat in the end. And it almost feels purposeful on the part of the creator. Like, how could you possibly have all of these interesting ideas right in front of you and refuse to explore any of them? Bishop, did they explore what it means to be a hero?
Hell no.
Almost. It looked like they would with John Walker, but then they immediately shut all that down. He's trying to meet impossible expectations. He knows it. He voices it. But he's the bad guy, so none of it matters. He's wrong because the writers wanted him to be wrong, even though he has insane potential to explore this compelling idea. And of course, Sam didn't explore it either. Dave, do they look at the difference between public state violence versus private? No. When career soldier Walker killed this guy and everyone made a huge deal over it, I really thought that they were going to examine how tons of killing is done at the behest of the government constantly. But it's not filmed and publicly displayed, so it's okay. See, it's sterile. We use drones. They're surgical strikes. The professionals are handling it, and it only becomes a problem when it's shown openly. They almost stumbled onto the idea in this scene when Walker says,
You built me.
But again, run away from that. Okay, he's bad. You don't feel sorry for him. He had the audacity to accept a promotion and not be the main character. The moron should have known better. We run away from that instantly, instead veering into him suddenly being an egomaniac who impotently bangs on the podium and demands, I am Captain America. Let's see, did they look at the necessity of violence instead? Walker is terrible for killing the guy, which is why when Sam kicks a dude out of a helicopter and he absolutely dies when hitting the surface tension of this river, they make a point of telling us later, no, he totally lived. Also, Sam doesn't get his hands dirty by killing Carly, but he is saved by violence right as she is about to return his mercy with murder. It's a complex concept. Did we weigh the necessity of violence in the face of violence?
Look, I'm sorry for how things ended down there. For what it's worth. Suit looks good on you.
Nope. Sam leaves his wounded savior Sharon behind to dramatically fly Carly's corpse to the crowd, and then, later, Sharon apologizes to him. Okay, maybe you aren't getting this. You see, Sam is the main character now, and the writer's favorite. His actions are correct, and he is never questioned. As a result, he's never used to question anything. Not thematically, anyway. He does make a speech that is so cringe-inducing. The final episode is a popular suggestion in r/looksmaxing as a surefire way to shape your jawline.
These labels, terrorist, refugee, thug, they're often used to get around the question why.
What is that?
You've got to do better, Senator. You've got to step up.
What the fuck is that?
Okay, but with all the talk of who gets the mantle and whether killing enemy combatants makes you unworthy of the Shield of Destiny and Stars and Stripes of Turin that once belonged to the holiest of holies, Steve Rogers, surely this show turned a spotlight on the idea of hero worship and how we can put figures like Rogers on a pedestal so high it's impossible to make out details about them. And that's before we install the rose-tinted bulletproof display glass.
And I was like, that option was not apparent at the time, you know? It just didn't occur to me in the moment.
Wrong again. Zemo tries to bring it up, and the idea about violence to stop people who won't stop otherwise. But he's also bad, so his ideas are also bad. The hodgepodge plot of this show was hilarious because it revolved around no one being worthy to take up Steve's mantle, and the horrible imposter that was given the task killed someone. Steve would never. Bing, bop, boom, 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 bop, bam. Oh, right. Well, in any case, Walker isn't worthy because he's extremely violent, okay? Unlike Sam Wilson.
I'ma do my stuff.
Oh, right. Huh. Well, I guess, Walker is a psychopath, though, all right? He was, like, joking about his kills. Sam actually feels remorse.
You already have 3 medals of honor.
3 badges of excellence to make sure I never forget the worst day of my life.
I make 7 hostiles.
I make 5.
Sam?
4.
Yeah, the tone is all over the place. There's no consistency. The showdown with Walker after killing the terrorist shows the complete lack of consistency with Sam's writing. A trauma counselor knows John just lost his best friend and snapped on a guy in the street and decides the best course of action is to confront him 2-to-1 with blame and demand he give up the shield. I like movie Sam so much more than show Sam. I genuinely have no idea why they decided to change him up, but it makes no sense. And it leaves the audience with a guy that they don't really know and they don't care about. New Sam is a holier-than-thou, pacifist when it's convenient lecturer with no ideas and no drive. Yay! Oh wait, he did have a drive. Now we have to talk about this. We avoided all of those other fantastic ideas and more in favor of race. Fun. Something Sam has never brought up before is now his defining characteristic, his big motivation. Race has never been a big topic in the MCU, and this show makes up for lost time by hitting you in the face with this message again and again.
Hey, it's Black Falcon!
That's the Black Falcon there!
What you want, Black Falcon?
I'm a black man carrying the Stars and Stripes.
When Steve told me what he was planning, I don't think either of us really understood what it felt like for a black man to be handed the shield.
Am I a joke to you?
They wanted to have their greens and eat them too by making Sam a victim of the horrible racisms, but also powerful and strong and loved by everyone. He can overcome anything.
I feel it. The stares, the judgment.
Flashback. A few moments later.
Cap?
I think he's talking to you.
What's up?
Once again, Falcon has no real motivation other than fighting racism and being salty that John Walker got the shield that he gave up, so he Monday morning quarterbacks the guy until he snaps.
Super soldiers for real?
Yeah.
Wow. All right, well then we gotta work together.
That's not happening.
If you joined up with us, I mean, we
No.
could... Look, If we divide ourselves, we don't stand a chance. You guys know that. So what do you got?
We're more flexible. So it wouldn't make sense for us to work with you.
Why? Because them, that's why.
At the end of the show, Sam is still no different from where he started. He still has no theme, no motivation, in possession of the shield, trying to figure out how to be Captain America. Not trying to figure out how to be a hero, not trying to figure out how the Falcon can lead, how to be Captain America. He's always been a support character packaged with Steve, and he still is.
You're not Steve Rogers. You're right. I'm not.
The only difference between episode 1 and episode 6 is Sam looking petty as hell. He still doesn't know how to be Captain America. He just knows that other guy sucks, and so do these politicians. How is this new movie going to build on a character with so much screen time, but no foundation? How will these same writers handle global conflict in this movie when their previous effort tried to paint cold-blooded killers as sympathetic, and their poorly explained cause unintentionally came across as anti-immigration, since the people returning from the blip are sucking up all the resources and jobs, and the terrorists are like, we were here first. Oops. These writers have Sam sympathizing with the One World, One People crew, but then a few minutes later vowing to fight for America.
We built this country. Bled for it. I'm not gonna let anybody tell me I can't fight for it.
The show is all over the place. Zero consistency. In fact, all of the race stuff, the Isaiah Bradley subplot, that could be blipped right out of the show and it wouldn't change a single thing. That's how superfluous it is. The general philosophy of this show is childish, but these writers are going to craft a better story this time. The show also backs up the Greg Owen definition of privilege. You just heard Sam saying that he can feel the stares and the judgment, but all we ever see are people believing in him. Steve believes in him. Bucky believes in him. The therapist believes in him. These people are cheering for him. Walker knows he needs Sam's help and asks for it multiple times. No one doubts his ability to do the job ever. The only person in the entire show who tells him he can't be Captain America because he's black is an older black man. He trusts that complete stranger because they look alike, and then it informs how he interprets everyone else's motives to the extent that he invents motives, claiming he can feel the stares and judgment. Where is any of it? Now, someone's going to comment to me that, well, I just don't get it, right? My ignorance of the situation is proof of just how serious the problem is. Maybe, but I would say back that most of the just look around, ism is everywhere argument, that's just called confirmation bias, and it's born from a lifetime of being told that they are out to get you. Most, keyword of all of it, is just ordinary assholery from ordinary assholes. They're all over the place, every color, every gender. The Greg Owen definition of privilege is the lack of expecting to find targeted oppression everywhere, which is why I can't stand this guy, this guy, this guy, these guys, this guy, and so many others who are telling young men this very thing. That's my pet thing to complain about. Now, you might disagree with me on the severity of the isms out there. Let me just ask you, which outlook is more productive for each individual? Is being on the lookout for trouble constantly helping? Or is it undermining your confidence and potential success in relationships? Falcon and the Winter Soldier ironically demonstrated the whole problem with Falcon as Captain America and why the audience won't care. It was never about the shield. You can't just pass it around to make a new Captain America. It was about Steve, the character. The audience didn't show up for Cap or a disc of vibranium. They showed up for Steve Rogers. And Disney Marvel hilariously made an entire show about how no effort mantle passing doesn't work, and then didn't realize that they are the bad guys in the situation. And now they're unironically trying to run with the idea that Sam can simply fill the role because he was handed the object.
Ooh, self-burn. Those are rare.
So Falcon never got much setup, and the show handled him so very poorly, but I've mentioned Sam not having a theme or a motivation, and we can see the difference when we look at the original 6 Avengers, back when this franchise was giving any kind of effort. These people had a question that drove them, a near universal question that manifested in different ways. Take a look at Tony Stark Am I good enough? How can I be good enough? The smartest, richest man alive had imposter syndrome, just like you and me, and they managed to make multiple movies out of that concept, and that is impressive. Steve Rogers, what is a hero? Steve wants to be a hero, but well, what does that look like? Is it punching Nazis? Is it selling war bonds? Eventually, is it fighting for the government or for freedom? They're not always the same thing. Thor, what do I do with the weight of responsibility? How do I wield the crown and the power that I have in the right way? Bruce Banner, how do I balance these two sides to myself? How do I control myself? How can I resolve my dichotomous nature? They only developed her later, but Natasha, and now Bucky, how can I ever be forgiven for the things that I've done? Will I forever be who I was? Who am I without my past?
I used to have nothing. And then I got this. If I move on, who does this?
And finally, Clint, how can I, a regular dude, do anything meaningful in the face of massive powers and problems? What is my little contribution? Does it mean anything? And should I simply try anyway? These are ubiquitous ideas that can resonate with just about everyone in some way. That is the beauty of fiction. It can examine human themes and not be shackled by the politics of the moment. Fiction can be transcendent because it deals with questions and ideas rather than specific events. Much like a fidget spinner, Falcon and Winter Soldier will be stuck in 2020 forever. So what is Falcon's core question? How can I be more like Steve? Who? How can I be a hero? We already had Steve, multiple movies trying to answer that, so what, Sam's just going to retread that? Or is his question, how do I deal with the horrible racism in the world? That sounds like a fun personal journey. Oh wait, it isn't. That's a story about everyone else. That's part of a fun new trend of empowering groups by, taking away their agency. Falcon never got a motivation. He never got a question, a theme. That is why it's hard to tell stories about him. Why does he do anything he does? We have no idea. He does them so the plot can happen. Yay. Sam could have been about violence and the use of violence and the effects of violence, especially on the psyche. This guy is a veteran who has done violence and works with emotionally damaged people. What better person to grapple with the question of if and when force is required and the consequences of using or not using it? But no. Now, we now have the kind of character who would be right at home flying a private jet 10,000 miles to give a speech at an environmental conference. Not only did the show make him less likable, it continued his lack of motivation, ensuring that the upcoming movie is going to be nothing more than a series of possibly entertaining but loosely connected events on screen. Fast cuts, explosions, CGI, entirely forgettable. The MCU is now the stupid popcorn flick comic book movies that critics used to claim that it was. We've seen Sam is not a draw for the audience, so this movie already had a tough row to hoe, but it gets worse, sadly. Every indication points to another empty, incoherent mess, very much like the Marvels and Indiana Jones, The Dial of Destiny. Let's start with the writing team. As I said, this movie features 2 of the writers from Falcon and Winter Soldier, but that was just the first round of script funding. In total, there are 6 credited writers for this Franken film, as director Julius Ona had a hand in it, as well as Rob Edwards and Peter Glanz. Then, last year, Moon Knight's Matt Orton was brought on for even more revisions and reshoots. And that's not counting staff writers and other uncredited work. The movie has been delayed 3 times, with heavy reshoots in between each. The delay to February 2025 was blamed on the writer's strike, and Anthony Mackie keeps telling everybody the reshoots are standard protocol. The movie has not been heavily reworked.
The lie detective determined that was a lie.
Yeah, Matt Orton was hired in December, the month after the strike ended, to do some writing for reshoots that would occur in 2024. There have been rumors of poor test screenings, which isn't the most unusual thing in the world, but the hiring timeline is also a bit funny. Giancarlo Esposito seems to have been brought on in early 2024, well after the original script was written. Mark Ruffalo claimed he was in it, but later it was reported that he misspoke. We know wrestler Seth Rollins had a role that is now entirely absent, and the character Sabra, an Israeli superhero who is a Mossad agent, has been dialed down to a former Black Widow with no powers. Basically, you've got 3 slapdash movies that have been thrown into the editing room like it's a witch's cauldron, and Marvel is hoping the resulting concoction is a beauty potion, when in reality it's probably just hobo stew. In the fall, plot leaks leaked that suggests Captain America is going to have to help a friend who is under mind control trying to kill a world leader in order to disrupt global relations so a secret snake-themed group can gain power, and he's going to have the help of the Falcon. Anthony Mackie's been telling people that this movie's like old school Marvel, like Winter Soldier, and I thought he meant in tone and depth. I didn't realize he was talking about the derivativeness of the plot.
Boom. Roasted.
That mind-controlled figure is Isaiah the Black Guy Bradley, who is black. And Blackley tells Black Sam that since they are black, they will never blackety-black to the black. My guess is the original plot revolved around race, again, because Malcolm Spellman's other writing credits are Empire and Bel Air, so he only knows how to tell literal skin-deep stories. Test audiences hated it, and they're probably trying to fill in for all the hatchet work that had to happen. This is rumored to be the same issue that struck the Marvels in Indiana Jones 5, where the original ideas were activism, basically, and when studio execs realized that the moment had passed, they tried to cut out the offending parts, but nicked the plot vessels, and those movies bled out in the first 2 weeks of their respective runs. Honestly, who knows what version of this movie we're gonna get, as the fall plot leak did say that Bucky showed up for like all of 3 minutes, but new reports are saying that Mr. Barnes won't be in the movie at all. Disney Marvel has stated that they want to appeal to female audiences, so they removed Sebastian Stan.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
In my opinion, all of these band-aids are just desperation to change course from what was probably the most condescending, preachiest movie to be made since An Inconvenient Truth. Even the title was changed from New World Order to Brave New World. Now, there is a minuscule chance that some wannabe highbrow writer tries to frame Sam as John the Savage from Huxley's novel, using him to attempt a Wreck-It Ralph-fisted critique of modern capitalism, more than likely, or trying to use Harrison Ford as a Mustafa Mond to represent the dehumanizing horrors of America and the probably the military-industrial complex. Why not colonialism thrown in there as well, right? Red Hulk would be the ultimate allegory for the threat of state violence. And while you absolutely should read Brave New World, I think the name change isn't that deep. In truth, it's simply something that can sound cultured while at the same time moving away from New World Order, which the studio was reportedly averse to because it was too controversial and divisive. The reality is that Disney is trying to sterilize every aspect of this movie now that the audience has made their distaste for the message quite clear. Of course, this will result in a sterile movie that won't make much sense or say anything, and you'll forget what happened during the walk from the theater to your car. But now it's time for predictions, and honestly, I'm having a tough time with this one on opening weekend. On one hand, I've been listing the numerous reasons that this thing will be a sloppy mess that no one cares to see. But there are a couple of X factors to consider for opening weekend. We have to think about the normie market simply by virtue of you watching a YouTube video breaking down the character qualities and behind-the-scenes details. I can make a pretty good guess that you care more about movies and the MCU than the average moviegoer. But let's ask ourselves what that average person thinks. The trailer looks like a White House down, clear and present danger political thriller. All right, there's Red Hulk, played by Harrison Ford. That's going to excite some folks. If you don't know any of the details, nothing about this trailer seems horrible. Valentine's weekend has it going up against Paddington in Peru and not much else, so there's a slight chance that its sterility could pay off that weekend as folks are looking for a date idea and they might think, yeah, you know, it probably won't be complete trash. However, we also have to take into account the superhero fatigue, or bad movie fatigue. Honestly, they're overlapping, and the audience is seeing the pattern. The MCU brand is tarnished. This movie doesn't have a huge marketing push, likely because Disney already knows that it's a bomb. Then you've got Sam as Cap. I don't believe anyone who watched the show came away eager to see more of Sam, and those that didn't watch it have no reason to care about him from the movies they saw over 6 years ago. There's a good chance that the regular audience who does know this movie even exists saw the trailers and thought, oh, race swap Cap, pass. Or they dimly recall Sam getting the shield, but they can't remember why, and they really aren't excited to find out for theater prices. Ticket pre-sales aren't looking great, so it seems like any small optimism is getting snuffed out. What I am much more certain of is that the second weekend fall off will be horrific. Like 80% less kind of horrific. Given the production problems, I don't see a way that this movie even makes sense, let alone connects with the audience or excites them to tell others about it. Now, it is opening in China, and it has IMAX showings, so there will be a little monetary bump, but my worldwide prediction for this one is a total of $300 million. What's your dollar prediction? There are 2 Lego sets and some brand deals to give it a slight non-ticket sales boost, but the rewrites and reshoots have apparently ballooned the budget, with estimates ranging from $350 million to $500 million. And that doesn't include the marketing, small as it may be. Nowhere in the multiverse does this movie make a profit. So the only question left is how much it's gonna lose. What are your predictions for plot points and total gross on Captain America 4? Are you considering seeing it? Let me know. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time.